Now let us go straight to the details. His Excellency, the President of the Republic, has conveyed his condolences to the family of Senator Donatille Mukabalisa following her passing. In a message read by the Secretary General of the RPF Inkotanyi Party, Ambassador Christophe Bazivamo, the President said the country has lost a valuable citizen and thanked her for the dedication she demonstrated throughout her service. A final tribute in honor of Senator Donatille Mukabalisa was held today at the Parliament of Rwanda, attended by senior government leaders, her family, friends, relatives, and others who knew her. Donatille Mukabalisa passed away after serving for 9 years as president of the Liberal Party. The Honorable Theogene Munyanyeo, the party's first vice president, praised her significant contribution to strengthening the party and providing it with a lasting vision. The President of the Senate, Dr. Francois-Xavier Kalinda, said the country has lost a wise leader who was compassionate and never hesitated to make decisions that served the national interest. Senator Donatille Mukabalisa served in the country's top leadership institutions for more than 20 years. She served as Speaker of the Chamber of Deputies for more than a decade before being appointed to the Senate in 2024. The Minister of National Unity and Civic Engagement, Dr. Jean Damascene Bizimana, has called on Rwandans to preserve the values of the Rwandan culture, including the value of loving work, in order to achieve sustainable development. He made the remarks today while joining residents of Rusizi district in celebrating the National Umuganura Harvest, that is the Harvest Day Festival. The 2026 Umuganura celebrations began with an exhibition showcasing the district's development driven by agriculture and livestock farming, industrial growth, and the service sector. These activities have generated significant returns for those who invested their effort and resources. Minister Jean Damascene Bizimana joined the residents of the district in the celebrations together with other leaders. He participated in sharing the harvest with residents, while 8 vulnerable families each were given a cow to ensure their household hearths would never go cold. Drawing on various traditional Rwandan proverbs that remain relevant today, the minister urged Rwandans to preserve the values of Rwandan culture, including a strong work ethic. The 2026 Umuganura celebrations were held under the theme Umuganura, the source of unity and the foundation of self-reliance. Historical records show that this was the first time in 132 years that the National Umuganura celebration has been held in what used to be Chiyanga region, having last been celebrated in Shanyi in 1894 during the reign of King Rwabugiri. Now, experts in the stock market investment believe that equity financing offers a solution for small and medium-sized enterprises, or SMEs, nearly 70% of which fall within the within the first 2 years of operation. They say this approach could also help address the challenge of high interest loans. Statistics released by the Ministry of Trade and Industry show that between 2023 and 2024, more than 53,000 small and medium-sized enterprises in Rwanda started operations but ceased operating before completing 2 years. This has been cited as one of the reasons why business owners are increasingly interested in selling shares in their companies. The Ministry of Trade and Industry also reports that more than 90% of businesses operate informally, while 46% obtain loans from informal lenders. Only 22% receive financing from formal financial institutions, including banks. The economist Professor Egide Karuranga says that an increase in the number of companies buying and selling shares will raise the proportion of formally registered businesses.
It comes with some constraints as far as corporate governance is concerned. You need to change your board sometimes, you need to appoint a new board, you need to make sure that everything is accounted for. You need to have a very proper accounting system so that people who lend you money have the security of being paid back after 5 years, because basically you are using their money as you want, but according to a plan you submitted before, and which plan is agreed upon before issuance of the bonds. So the monitoring process, the entire reorganization sometimes is complicated for small companies, but the product is there and some companies have started using it.
Economic experts also argue that financial institutions and banks should make it easier for SMEs to access affordable financing for investment in their projects.
MSMEs account for 97% of Rwandan companies, but only 15% can access finance. So we cannot grow or sustain our economy when only 15% can access finance. So we need that kind of a paradigm shift. Government has done its work, but it has to really reshape and rework on our banking sector. And that is the challenge we are putting forward to the policymakers, to the banking institution. We need to really reorganize, rework on our financial institution.
Rwanda's capital market is equivalent to 30% of the country's gross domestic product. The chief executive officer of the Rwanda Capital Market Authority, Pierre Celestin Rwabukumba, believes that buying and selling shares is a fast and effective way to accelerate the country's economic growth.
It means that our people, our economies are not using the capital markets as they should. Yet we keep complaining about access to capital, access to finance, so that our banking is not good enough to finance our economies. So that means the cheapest money you can get normally is from the capital markets. So I think our telcos, our banks, and all these people who are out there, they should be utilizing the market, but it's a work in progress. We keep pushing, but to curb some of the issues that we see globally in the economies, we are trying to diversify the kind of products we are offering on the market.
South Africa, Botswana, and Malawi are the leading countries in Africa with capital markets whose value exceeds 100% of their gross domestic products. Now, Rwanda says it has experiences and achievements to share with the international community regarding its efforts to promote the use of clean energy at a global forum to be held in Australia at the end of this month. This was announced by the Ministry of Infrastructure during a two-day conference that took place here in Kigali, where cooperation agreements on clean energy were also expected to be signed. The conference on clean energy was held in Rwanda. Statistics show that only 5.4% of households primarily use clean energy and clean cooking technologies. Across Rwanda, 76% of households use firewood as their primary cooking fuel. Of those, 92.5% are rural households. In urban areas, 50.6% of the households use charcoal, 32.1% use firewood, and 16.8% use liquefied petroleum gas or LPG. Private sector representatives, development partners, and policymakers attending the conference were informed that according to the Energy Progress Report 2026, around 660 million people worldwide will lack access to electricity. Meanwhile, nearly 2 billion people globally continue to rely on polluting cooking fuels. The report also shows that sub-Saharan Africa accounts for nearly 85% of the world's population without access to electricity. Kenya's Cabinet Secretary for Energy and Petroleum, James Opio Wandai, has noted that Rwanda is leading efforts to help the African continent advance, that is, the transition to clean energy.
So as we gather here today in Kigali, I want to commend the government of Rwanda, under the leadership of the Ministry of Infrastructure, for championing regional dialogue and demonstrating how strategic infrastructure and forward-looking policies can accelerate Africa's clean energy ambitions. Together, Kenya, Rwanda, and our sister African nations have an opportunity to build not just national grids, but an interconnected African energy ecosystem that powers trade, innovation, and sustainable economic growth.
The country's energy intensity, that is the amount of primary energy required to generate economic output or GDP, has remained nearly unchanged at 3.22% of gross domestic product. The Minister of State in the Ministry of Infrastructure, Ahmad Zinjiro, confirmed that cooperation agreements would be signed during the conference.
I'll take an example that we have in Rwanda. On the eastern side, we are sharing a power plant between Rwanda, Burundi, and Tanzania. On the western side, we are sharing also with DRC, Burundi, and Rwanda equally. We are exchanging in the north, we are doing power trade with Uganda, which is connected to Kenya, so we directly indirectly connected to Kenya as well. So we have stories that people can see that is working. So the more we put effort on regional integration, the more successful we will be.
In sub-Saharan Africa, more than 560 million people still lack access to electricity, while nearly 1 billion people do not have access to clean cooking solutions. Despite this, Africa possesses nearly 60% of the world's highest potential solar energy resources, yet receives only about 3% of global investment in the energy sector. Now, Rwanda is projected to remain among Africa's fastest growing economies in 2026, according to the IMF and the African Development Bank. But what is driving that confidence and what would derail the outlook? William Evans Mutabazi examines what the two forecasts tell us about Rwanda's economy.
At a time when trade tensions, geopolitical conflicts and rising costs are weighing on the global economy, Rwanda continues to record a markedly stronger growth outlook. Both the International Monetary Fund and the African Development Bank expect the economy to grow by around 7% this year. Two institutions, different assessments, but a remarkably similar outlook. The IMF points to sustained investment, expanding services, infrastructure development, and sound macroeconomic management. The African Development Bank highlights infrastructure, industrialization, regional integration, and private sector development. The projections stand out against a weaker global backdrop. The IMF expects global growth at around 3% this year, less than half Rwanda's projected rate. But that does not make Rwanda immune to external shocks. Both institutions identify risks that could put pressure on the outlook. For an economy that relies on imported fuel and production inputs, disruptions in global markets can quickly translate into higher costs for businesses and eventually consumers. And there is another test. Growth figures alone do not tell the whole story. The real measure will be whether strong economic activity translates into expanding businesses, more jobs, and raising household incomes. That is where the focus will ultimately be tested. For now, the message from both institutions is consistent. Rwanda enters 2026 with one of the continent's strongest growth outlooks. The challenge now is to turn that projected growth into broader and lasting economic opportunities. William Evans, RTV News.
A digital platform that brings together information on schools across Rwanda was launched in Kigali today. The platform, called Rwanda Schools Directory, is available online and already contains information on more than 1,200 educational institutions, including nursery schools, primary schools, secondary schools, and universities. Some school administrators say it has made it easier for parents and guardians to find and connect with their institutions. The platform's founder, Marianne Ineza, has said they have an ambitious plan to expand the directory by adding more than 5,000 schools across the country. Starting the weekend, and I hope you have a great weekend ahead of you, whether or not you're a fan of Rayon Sport. Until next time, goodbye.